You worked in the FBI, is that right?
Yes.
10 years in the FBI?
Yes.
And prior to that, you were in the United States Army?
Yes, sir.
300 combat missions in Iraq, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And your time at the FBI, you were special agent in the Directorate, Supervisory Special Agent in the Directorate of Intelligence. Is that accurate?
Yes, Chairman.
In your testimony, and I just want to get you familiar with this subject matter, in your testimony you said one of the ways we can eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse is including the overspending on confidential human sources. You said that in your testimony, right?
Yes, Chairman.
Are you familiar with the Inspector General's report about the confidential human sources who were there on January 6, 2021 here at the Capitol? Have you read the report?
I haven't read that closely.
Well, let me tell you a few things that they say in there, and I want to ask you a few questions. He said there were 26 confidential human sources there at the Capitol that day. Does that surprise you?
No.
Doesn't surprise you. Okay. He said 17 of those 26 confidential human sources entered restricted space they weren't allowed to go into. Does that surprise you?
Hey, Patriots. Welcome back to the channel. If you believe in the Constitution, if you love this country, and if you're tired of the endless corruption in D.C., then you are in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into the latest bombshell testimony from Capitol Hill. Congressman Jim Jordan just exposed some seriously troubling information about the FBI. Information every American needs to hear. So buckle up, because what you're about to learn will make your blood boil.
No.
Doesn't surprise you. They did things they weren't allowed to do.
Well, I need more details about, so were they doing it on their own? Were they told to do it? Were they, that kind of thing?
We want to know the answers to those questions too.
Yes, sir.
4 of them went inside the Capitol, and 2 of the 4 who went inside the Capitol were specifically asked by the FBI to be there that day for this. Does that surprise you?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
But I need to know more facts.
And does it surprise you that any of them, none of these individuals, to our knowledge, were charged with anything?
No, I mean, if they were tasked to be there.
Okay.
I would need more information.
Okay, well, in your testimony, you talked about overspending on confidential human sources. Do you believe, is it likely these 26 were being paid by the FBI at the time they were doing this?
I think that's, if they are a confidential human source that's actually on the books, then it's highly likely that they were paid.
Highly likely they're being paid.
If they were tasked to do that.
Even if they weren't specifically asked to be there that day? You think there's likely they were paid?
So if they weren't asked to be there, I think usually they're giving us like a lump payment periodically, so it wouldn't be for a specific tasking necessarily. It'd be hard to answer that.
Are you familiar with what was released here earlier this week, the text communications between FBI agents regarding October 14th, 2020 New York Post story on the Hunter Biden laptop? Have you had a chance to review those?
I haven't seen those text messages.
Well, let me just read a couple to you here. It says, nobody on the call is authorized to comment on the New York Post story. Twitter is treating this as disinformation. I just want to read something that took place earlier that day. The way this day worked is the story came out. That day, Elvis Chan, a guy with the FBI, is meeting with the tech company, something he did on a regular basis in the run-up to the 2020 presidential election. At that meeting, someone asked, hey, there's this New York Post story. Is the laptop real? And we know this took place because we deposed Mr. Brady Olson, and he gave us this information. And he said, when that question was asked, the response was, yes, the laptop is real. Then we get these text messages, which we didn't have before, we just got them this week, these text messages which relate what happens after that. So the FBI has confirmed to Twitter at a FITF meeting on October 14th that the laptop is real. And then we have these text messages back and forth where they says no one is authorized to comment further. Twitter is treating this as disinformation. You find that troubling that the FBI knew something was real, confirmed it at a meeting, then changed their story and went to no comment, no further comment, and allowed the tech companies to run with the idea that this story was disinformation?
Yeah, I do think that's problematic, and I do think the relationships that they tried to build with members of the FBI with these other organizations were problematic.
Yeah, and the ranking member said, oh, the Republicans want to say the FBI was political, and what really wasn't the case. If this is not political, I do not know what is, because this was the whole basis for the 51 former intel officials doing their letter. And the FBI knew. Now we have written evidence they knew, coupled with the deposition we took before where they admitted this. And then later in the day when they're meeting with other tech companies, they go with no comment. And they even admit here Twitter is running with the disinformation story. Even before the 51 intel officials come out with their letter, which is baloney, they're running with that. And the FBI was part of fostering and promoting that story.
It's unacceptable.
Totally unacceptable.
And it shows how one bad apple, and they're probably others, but you can see how much of a problem that is. And that one bad apple behaves that way, the entire Bureau's reputation is impacted. Yeah. Trust is lost across the country. And so that's why it's so important to find folks like that, going back to the entrenched bureaucrats. You have to find them and remove them because that's all it takes is one bad apple.
I think that was point one in your testimony, which is exactly what Ms. Bondi and Mr. Patel are doing, is getting rid of those individuals who foster this kind of political environment where you're going after your political foes, where you're telling things, saying things, allowing things to be believed that aren't accurate when you knew the truth all along.
That's right. True.
I yield back.
So let's start with the witness at the center of this hearing. Mr. Witson. This guy is no lightweight. He spent 10 years as a supervisory special agent in the FBI's Directorate of Intelligence. Before that, he served our country with honor. 300 combat missions in Iraq as a member of the U.S. Army. Now he's working as Senior Director of Federal Affairs at the Foundation for Government Accountability, and he's been fighting to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. This is a man who's seen it all, patriots, both on the battlefield and behind the scenes in Washington. Then we get to the real jaw-dropper. Congressman Jordan revealed an Inspector General's report showing that 26 confidential FBI informants were at the Capitol on January 6th. Let that sink in. 26 informants. Out of those, 17 entered restricted areas, and 4 even went inside the Capitol itself. 2 of those were specifically tasked by the FBI to be there. Now you tell me, patriots, if this was supposed to be the biggest insurrection since the Civil War, why did the FBI have so many people on the ground? And why were some of them told to be there by their bosses? It's hard not to think that the FBI was more than just a bystander that day. Maybe they were playing both sides or even trying to steer the chaos. When Jordan asked if these informants were paid, Witson said yes. Confidential sources usually get paid in lump sums, not just for specific jobs. That means your taxpayer dollars could have been funding these operations. And yet, none of these informants were charged, not one. Why not? If they broke the law, why did they get special treatment? Is it because they're on the right side of the political aisle for the FBI? Patriots, it's a double standard, plain and simple. But it gets worse. Jordan then brought up the infamous Hunter Biden laptop story, the one that big tech and the mainstream media worked overtime to bury before the 2020 election. Here's what happened. On October 14th, 2020, the New York Post drops the laptop story. At the same time, FBI agent Elvis Chan is meeting with Twitter. When asked if the laptop is real, the FBI confirms, yes, it's real. But then, get this, the FBI tells their agents to keep quiet, to say no comment, and let Twitter treat the story as disinformation. They even admit in text messages that Twitter was running with the disinformation narrative. Before. Those 51 former intelligence officials signed their notorious letter calling it Russian disinformation. So the FBI knew the truth. They knew the laptop was real, but they let, and even encouraged, big tech to mislead the American people. This wasn't just a mistake, folks. This was election interference by our own government. Here's my take as a proud American patriot. This is everything we've been warning about for years. The deep state is real. The FBI, once the premier law enforcement agency in the world, has been corrupted from within by entrenched bureaucrats who put politics above their oath of office. When you have agencies with this much power playing politics with our elections, and potentially even with our protests, that's not just problematic. That's a threat to our republic. Congressman Jordan is right. One bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. But let's be honest. At this point, it's more than just one. We need to root out every last one of these corrupt officials. We need real accountability. And we need to restore trust in our institutions. Because right now, millions of Americans, including myself, don't trust the FBI, the DOJ, or any of these bloated agencies. So what can we do about it? Stay informed. Keep asking questions. Support leaders who are willing to stand up to the deep state. Demand transparency. And never let the media gaslight you into silence. If you agree, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. We have to keep spreading the truth because the future of our country depends on patriots like you. God bless you. God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America.